previous class we have discussed regarding the origin of universe, earth and the origin of life. So in this class we are going to discuss regarding the evolution of life forms, a theory. So what do you mean by this evolution of life forms? Means it is a gradual changes in the life forms, converting the simple life forms into the complicated ones, right? So that is called as the evolution of life forms. So in this evolution of life forms, we are going to discuss two important theories, that is theory of special creation and the Darwin's theory. So firstly, the theory of special creation. So conventional religious literatures will tell us regarding this theory of special creation, and this theory of special creation is having the three connotations or the three suggestions. So the first one is that all the living organisms that we see today were created as such. The second thing is that the diversity is always the same since creation and will be the same in future. And the third connotation is that our earth is 4,000 years old. Right? So these are the three connotations or three suggestions that were given by the theory of special creation. So the first one is that all the living organisms that we see today were created as such. Means according to the special creation, so there is no any such kind of the evolution, but all the diversity of the organisms that we see today, means all the different types of organisms that we are seeing today were created as such. Means they are created as they are now. So the second thing is that the diversity is always the same since creation and will be the same in future. Means when this earth was originated, so all the organisms, how much diversity is there in the living forms, so that was same since the creation and it is going to be the same in the future also. And the third thing is that our earth is 4,000 years old. So these are the three suggestions or connotations which are given by the theory of special creation. But all these ideas were they were challenged during the 19th century. Means during the 19th century, so these ideas were strongly challenged based upon the observations during the sea voyage in the sail ship, that is HMS Beagle. Means HMS Beagle is the name of a ship, so that has been for the sea voyage. So and means according to that, means whatever the observations were made during that sea voyage in the sail ship HMS Beagle around the world. So Charles Darwin was also a part of that sea voyage, and what did Charles Darwin say? So that is termed as a Darwin's theory. So what does Darwin say regarding the evolution of life forms? So based upon the observations of the sea voyage, Charles Darwin concluded that so the existing living forms, so they are going to share the similarities in the varying degree, not only among themselves but also with the living forms, so that were existed millions of years ago. So Charles Darwin what he said that all the living forms, means whichever they are present in today's life and they were existed millions years ago, right? So all these organisms, they are going to share the similarities, means all the organisms that were existed millions years ago and the organisms that are present today. So all these, they are going to share the similarities but in the varying degree. Means some of the organisms might be 10% similar, some might be 20% similar. So in this way, so the degree is going to vary in the form of the similarities. But all these organisms, they are going to share the similarities. But many such living forms does not exist today. Means some of the living forms, they are not existing today. So it is termed as an extinction. So many of the organisms have got extincted during the due course of time, and many of the new life forms have arose in the various periods of the history of the earth. Okay, means what Darwin says that all the living forms, they are going to share a similarity. Some of them have got extincted and some of the new and different life forms have got arose, so during the various period of the history of the earth. So now Darwin, what he says that there has been a gradual evolution of a life forms. Means there has been a gradual changes in the life forms, and he also says that all the populations have inbuilt a variation in characteristics. Means all the populations, so they are having a variations in their characteristics. Means they are, suppose if you are taking the human beings, one human being is not similar to the other human being. So the characteristics of one human being is going to vary with the characteristics of the another human being. So the characteristics, there are some characteristics which are going to enable the organisms to survive better in the natural conditions. They might be the climatic conditions, the food, or it might be regarding the climatic changes, means like physical factors, right? So these changes, what it will do means, these characteristics, it will make the organisms to outbreed the other organisms which are low endowed to survive under the environment conditions, right? So means every population is having variation, means by inbuilt, so there is a variation in the characteristics, and some characteristics they are going to help to survive better in the natural conditions than the other characteristics. So these characteristics are referred as a fitness of a population or an organism. Means the characteristics which are going to enable to survive better in the natural conditions, so it is termed as a fitness. But the term fitness, according to Charles Darwin, is ultimately and only it refers to the reproductive fitness. The first is that every population is having variation in characteristics, and second thing is that it refers to the reproductive fitness. So the fitness, according to Charles Darwin, it refers only for the reproductive fitness. So the characteristics or the organisms which better fit in the environment, so they are going to live large number of progeny. Means the organisms which are going to survive better in the natural conditions, so they are going to live large number of progenies, and they are able to survive in a large number, and they are selected by nature. And he called it as a natural selection. So Charles Darwin called it as natural selection, and he implied this natural selection as a mechanism for the evolution, right? So this is regarding the Darwin's theory. So Charles Darwin said that all the living forms, they are going to share the similarities in the varying degrees, not only among themselves but also with the organisms that were present or that were existed millions years ago back. So second thing is that what he said, there is a gradual evolution of life forms. So every population is having an inbuilt variation in the characteristics, and there are certain characteristics which enable the organisms to better survive in the natural conditions, right? So these characteristics which help them to better survive, so that word is given as a fitness of a population or an organism. And the word fitness, according to Charles Darwin, is it is ultimately and only it is referred to the reproductive fitness. The organisms which are reproductively fit, so they are going to produce a large number of progeny, and they are going to survive more, and they are selected by nature. So he called it as a natural selection, and he implied that natural selection is a mechanism for the evolution. So this is regarding the Darwin's theory. So we should also remember one more person, that is Alfred Wallace. So the third person is Alfred Wallace. So this Alfred Wallace is a naturalist. He worked at the Malay Archipelago. So he also come to the similar conclusions as that of the Darwin around the same time. Means he was working at a different place and he was working at a different place, but both are working on the same topic and both has come to the same conclusion around the same time, right? So this is theories or explanation regarding the evolution of life forms. By saying all this explanation, what we can conclude is that the geological history of the earth is closely correlating with the biological history of the earth. Means geological history of the earth is correlating with the biological history of the earth. So now let us see how one can say there is an evolution of the life forms. Means in science nothing is accepted without the proof or without the evidences. So we are also having an evidences that the life forms have undergone the evolution. So now let us study what are the various evidences for the evolution of life forms. Evidences or proofs for this evolution. So in this class we will be discussing the three important evidences for the evolution. So the first one is paleontological evidence. So what is this paleontology means? The study of fossils is called as a paleontology. And what do you mean by fossil? So fossil means fossils are remains of hard parts of life forms in rocks. Right? So what do you mean by fossil means? Fossils are nothing but they are the remains of the hard parts of the life forms. So that are present in the rocks. So these are called as fossils, and fossils are also stated as the dead and remaining parts of the hard parts of the life forms. That is both the plants and animals. They are called as fossils. So these fossils, where they are found in the rocks. These rocks are going to form a sediment. Means a layer of depositions is called as a sediment. So the rock is usually having a large number of sediments. They are usually called as a sedimentary rocks. So whenever we are going to take a cross section of the earth crust, so what we are going to see or what we are going to indicate is that cross section is having a large number of the sediments which are placed one over the other during the large history of the earth. Means during the history of the earth, many layers of sediments have formed. So they are placed one above the other according to the date, means according to the year of their formation. So whenever we are going to see the different age, means different type of rock sediments or the different layers of the rock sediments, what we are going to see is, suppose if you take a layers of sediment, this is the first layer of sediment, second layer of sediment, third layer of sediment, fourth, fifth. So these are the different aged sediment layers. So these are the different aged sediments. So these different aged sediments, they have fossils of different forms, right? So this sediment, the first sediment might have formed 100 years back, second sediment might have formed 90 years back, 80 years back, 70 years. So there is a particular duration in which the sediments are formed. So the different aged sediments, they are going to contain or they will have the fossils of the different forms. Means the one which is found, the fossil which is found in the first sediment layer, that might be different in the second. So the third might be different from the second. So in the same way, every different sediment layer might have the fossils of the different forms. So whenever which are died, suppose during the formation of the first layer of the sediment, if one organism is died, so that fossil will be found usually in that layer of the sediment. So the different aged sediments, they will be having the fossils of the different life forms which probably died during the formation of a particular sediment. So now these fossils might be similar to the present day animals also. So they are called as extinct organisms. For example, the dinosaurs. We are also having organisms in the present day, so which are similar to that of the dinosaurs, right? So now whenever we are going to study the fossils of the particular sediment, particular layer of sediment, so that is going to relate to the geological period in which that animal or the organisms were present. Suppose if we take this layer, if we are going to make a study on this sediment layer, so we are going to get a fossils, right, of this particular geological period. So the fossils of a particular geological period can be studied. So what is the overall thing that we will come to know during the paleontology or the study of paleontology is that so the different life forms have arisen during the various time of the history of the earth. So some of the organisms are restricted to a particular geological period. So it means that so the different life forms have been arose during the various time of the history of the earth. So that's what we can tell regarding this paleontological evidence, right? So coming to the second one, that is embryological evidence. The second thing is embryological evidence. So the embryological support for evolution was proposed by Ernst Haeckel. So it was given by Ernst Haeckel. So what does this Ernst Haeckel said is that based upon the observations of the certain features during the embryonic study or during the embryonic stage which are common to all the vertebrates but they are not present in the adult stage. Means he has taken the certain features at the embryonic stage, that is the vertebrates. He has taken the embryos of all the vertebrates and he has taken the certain features and then he has correlated to one and the other. But these features are not present in the adult. Means the embryo is converted into adult stage but the features which are present in the embryo stage, so that are not present in the adult stage. So Ernst Haeckel he proposed the embryological support to the evolution. He based upon the observations that is certain features during the embryonic stage common to all the vertebrates but they are absent in the adult stage. So one best example is that he has taken this all the vertebrates including the human beings. So they are having a vestigial, that is row of vestigial gill slits back of the head. This is just behind the head. So all the vertebrate embryos, so they are having a row of vestigial gill slits. But these gill slits are only the functional organs in case of the fish. Other vertebrates, there is no any function in the adult of the gill slits. Like vertebrates means we are going to take the fish, frog, reptiles, birds and mammals, right? So these are all the vertebrates, amphibians, fishes, birds, reptiles and mammals. So these embryos, so all the embryos of the vertebrates, so they are going to possess a row of vestigial gill slits just behind the head during the embryonic stage. But this vestigial gill slits, so they are the functional organs only in the fishes. So they are the only functional organs in case of the fish, and all the other vertebrates, so they are not going to possess this gill slits in the adult stage. So this is the proof which is given by the Ernst Haeckel. But this theory was disapproved by the one more scientist called as Carl Ernst. So Carl Ernst von Bell, so he is a scientist, he disproved the theory of this embryological proof. What he noted is that the embryonic stages does not pass through the adult stage of the different or the other animals, right? So the embryonic stage does not pass through the adult stage of the other animals. Means one embryo can't get converted into the one embryo of a particular organism can't develop into another organism, right? Suppose if we are taking the embryo of a fish, suppose we are taking the embryonic stage of a fish. So when it gets converted into adult, so obviously this adult should be a fish, and this adult is not converted into frog or a reptile or a bird. So this is what Carl Ernst said. The embryonic stage does not pass through the adult of the other animal. So this is regarding the embryological evidence or the embryological support for the evolution. So coming to the next one, that is third one, comparative anatomy and morphological evidence. and morphological evidences for the evolution. So anatomy means the study of internal structure and morphology means the study of external features. So this anatomy and morphology, what it gives us is the similarities and the differences among the organisms that are present today and the organisms that are existed millions of years ago. Right? So there is a comparative anatomy and the morphological evidences. So the thing is that such similarities, when they are interrupted or when they are interrogated, means when we are starting to interrogate or interrupt the similarities among the organisms, we will come to know whether the organisms are going to share the same ancestry or the different ancestors, right? So when we interrupt the similarities, we will come to know whether the organisms, they are going to share the same ancestors or they are going to share the different ancestors, right? So now we see some examples. For example, if you take a cheetah, we take a whale, cheetah, bat and a human. So they are having a similarity. So they are having similarity in the bones of forelimbs. So the front limbs, they are called as the forelimbs, right? So when we take the cheetah, whale, bat and human, we can see the similarities in their bones of the forelimbs. Means they are having a similar anatomical structure. So all the bones of the forelimbs of this whale, cheetah, bat and human, they are having the same bones. That is humerus, radius, ulna, carpus, metacarpus and phalanges. Means the bones which are present in the forelimbs of this whale, cheetah, bat and human. So all the bones are similar, but in the course of time they have got evolved to perform the different functions based upon the needs. Suppose if we take a whale, so the whale, the forelimb of the whale is used for the swimming purpose. Cheetah, the forelimbs are used for running. Then in bat it is used for the flying, and in human, so it is used for the various purposes, right? So though the anatomical structure is same in the case of all the forelimbs, but their function is different. So this kind of evolution is called as a divergent evolution. So this is called as a divergent evolution, and the structures are called as a homologous structures. So homologous structures means the ones which are having the same ancestry. So homologous structures means they are having the same ancestors. Right? So whenever we are going to take the example, means all these are mammals. Whale, cheetah, bat and human, all are mammals. So when we are going to take the forelimbs, all the anatomical structure of the forelimbs are same. Means they are having the same bones, that is humerus, radius, ulna, carpus, metacarpus and phalanges. But the function performed by this structure is different in the different mammals, right? So this is due to the evolution, or means they have developed in the different directions to meet their particular needs or particular adaptations. So this kind of evolution is called as a divergent evolution. Means the same anatomical structures evolved to perform the different functions is called as a divergent evolution, right? So here all this whale, cheetah, bat, human, they are having a particular bones in the forelimbs. Means all the anatomical structure of the forelimbs is same, but still they are evolved to perform the different functions. So that is called as a divergent evolution. And these structures, the structures which are anatomically same but perform different functions, they are called as a homologous structures. And the homologous structures, they are having the same ancestry. We are also having the different examples for this. So for example, the vertebrate brains, vertebrate heart. So there are also examples for this homologous organs. And if you take in case of the plants, there are also examples for the analogous homologous structure. For example, the thorns of a bougainvillea and tendrils of cucurbita. So both are anatomical structures are same, but here the thorn is used for the protection, and whereas the tendril is used for the climbing purpose or to provide the support for the plant. So these are the examples of the homologous structure as well as the divergent evolution. So coming to the next one, that is the convergent evolution or the analogous structures, which is exactly opposite to the homologous structures. that is, suppose if we take a wings of butterfly and birds. Suppose if you observe the wings of butterfly and birds, so for means as they are going to perform the same function, or they are like nearly similar in observation, what we think is that both the wings of butterfly and birds are similar. But the thing is that the structure, the anatomical structure of wings of butterfly is very different from the anatomical structure of that of the wings of birds. Here the anatomical structure is different, but they are going to perform the same function, that is flying. So this type of evolution is called as a convergent evolution. Convergent evolution, and the structures are called as analogous structures, and they are having different axes. Right? So the different structures which are evolved to perform the same function, so it is called as a convergent evolution. Means here though the wings of butterfly and birds, they are having a different anatomical structure, but they are going to perform the same function, that is flying. So here the different structures, they are going to evolve to perform the same function. So that is called as a convergent evolution, and the structures are called as analogous structures. So analogous structure means the structures of the organs which are anatomically different, but they are going to perform the same function. Here they are not going to share the same ancestors. The ancestors will be different. So what are the other examples for this convergent evolution or analogous structures is that we can take the example of the eye of an octopus and the eye of a human being, right? So both are having a different origin or the different ancestry or the different anatomical structure, but the function is same, that is both the eyes are used for the vision purpose, right? So one more thing what we can take is that the flippers of whales and that of the flippers of penguin. So the flippers of whale and the flippers of penguin, though they are different from other, but they are going to perform the same function, that is the swimming. So suppose if we take in case of the plants, so what is the example for analogous structures in plants is, the best example is sweet potato and the normal potato. So normal potato, or the potato which is used as a vegetable, so that is a stem modification, and the sweet potato is a root modification. So though they are very different in anatomical structure, so they are going to perform the same function, that is they are going to store the food. So this is regarding the comparative anatomy and the morphological evidences for the evolution, right? So till now we have discussed the three evidences. The first is the paleontological evidence, the second comes the embryological evidence, and the third one is comparative anatomy and morphological evidence, right? So this is all for the today's class. In the next class we will be continuing regarding the some more evidences that are related for the evolution. Thank you.